Hi, this is Rosetta Wood, Paleo Diet Magazine, and today we have Mark Sisson, and he's going to be talking with us about paddleboarding as it relates to health and fitness. Mark is a fitness author and a blogger, and Mark has the daily MarksDailyApple.com. How are you doing today, Mark?
I'm doing fabulous, Rosetta. And yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I have a question for you. How did you get started with the Primal Blueprint?
I was a endurance athlete in the 70s and 80s and doing everything that I thought I needed to do to be healthy and fit, running long distances and eating lots of carbohydrates. And it turned out I wasn't that healthy or fit. I could race fast, but I was making myself unhealthy from the amount of training I was doing and from the diet. So I started looking into ways that I could be the healthy, fit, lean individual that I wanted to be without having to go through so much pain and suffering, and to try to discover the ways in which we might, all of us might, burn off stored body fat and not get sick as often through certain types of foods that we might eat. And that kind of led me to a 30-year research project, which became the Primal Blueprint, as I discovered that so much of what we do in our lives has an impact on our genes. And the idea that some of the things are good for our genes and cause our genes to express themselves in making us strong and lean and fit, and other things that we do can turn genes in the opposite direction and make us sick. So the Primal Blueprint became my way of discovering these hidden genetic switches that we can all use to access good health.
Okay. What are some of the major offenders to the body?
Well, processed carbohydrates, simple sugars, omega-6 oils and polyunsaturated fatty acids that are in that category, corn oil, soybean oil, things like that.
So you're speaking about the industrial oils?
Yeah, what we call the industrial seed oils. Those are the major offenders. So if you were going to embark on a strategy of eating healthy and you wanted a quick thumbnail sketch as to what to do, I'd say eliminating desserts and soft drinks and getting rid of as much sugar in your life as you possibly can, the kind that comes from either table sugar or high fructose corn syrup.
How do you feel about grains?
Yeah, and then grains would be another aspect that I would say would be the next step. So once you've eliminated the simple sugars and the industrial seed oils, I think getting rid of the grains is probably a great choice for most people. They not only cause issues with increased blood sugar and insulin problems with a lot of people, and hence a lot of fat storage issues with a lot of people, but the grains themselves contain some pretty nasty things we call anti-nutrients, which are antithetical to health, that may cause things like leaky gut, or may even lead to certain autoimmune issues later on. So the next level of sophistication in this program would be to give up the grains.
Give up the grains. What about ketos? How do you feel about that?
I think ketones are great. I think that as a source of fuel, ketones are something our bodies are certainly designed to run on for long periods of time if we choose to do that. Ketones are just the byproduct of fat metabolism and a lack of access to glucose or glycogen. And in many cases, we can develop this kind of metabolic machinery over time that allows us to burn ketones very easily and probably even preferentially over, say, glucose or other fuel sources.
Okay. Do you have a program that would help us with this?
Well, yeah, the Primal Blueprint, my original book, which explains all of this, and then more specifically, I have a 21-day program called the Primal Blueprint 21-Day Total Body Transformation, which really takes people step by step through what it takes to get rid of certain types of foods, clean out the pantry, restock the pantry and the refrigerator with healthy, wholesome foods, and start to train the body to become good at burning fat and ketones and not rely so much on carbohydrates for fuel.
Okay. That sounds good. Now, carbohydrates. How do you feel about carbohydrates?
Well, I'm ambivalent. I mean, I think carbohydrates are fine in the right context and in small amounts. So I'm not an anti-carbohydrate guy. I think that most people would describe my eating strategy, the Primal Blueprint eating strategy, as one that seeks to reduce carbohydrates to an amount that's probably essential for energy and health. We don't eliminate them entirely in most cases. Sometimes we do, but in most cases we look to get rid of the sorts of carbohydrate sources that would come from the sugars and the refined processed carbohydrate, refined grains and things like that. And what you're left with, if you do eliminate sugars and grains, is you're left with vegetables and fruit and maybe some starchy tubers, sweet potatoes and things like that. And so in the right context, those sorts of carbohydrates are fine, and I don't think anybody's going to be, other than people who are really severely overweight and need to really aggressively approach their weight loss. I think most people would get by just fine, enjoying the flavors that are added to the diet with the presence of vegetables and tubers as a healthy carbohydrate source.
Okay. I was told that you like sports, and one of your favorite sports to do is stand-up paddleboarding.
Yeah.
Yes. Can you
I
tell? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I spent most of my life in sports as an endurance athlete, kind of doing my thing alone, sweating and straining under the hot sun, running marathons and triathlons. It wasn't what I would call a lot of fun. So I decided a few years ago that if I was going to be doing any kind of rigorous activity from now on, it ought to be fun. So I like snowboarding, for instance. When there's snow, I love snowboarding. I do a little bit of surfing. I play ultimate frisbee, and one of my main things is stand-up paddleboarding. And I have a board I keep down at a friend's house, and I go out as often as I can for an hour or two at a time. The point being that I'm getting a great workout, but at no point during that time I'm on the board do I feel like I'm doing a workout. I feel like I'm having fun.
Okay. What are some of the techniques you learn when you're doing the paddle boarding? Say, for example, is there a special way to carry the board into the water?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a whole series of aspects to paddling that we would, if we were like we have a 3-day luxury retreat in Malibu that people attend, and they find out how to become Primal. And one of the events in that 3-day period is we take them out on the boards and show them how to set the board up and how to enter the water and stand up on the board and maintain balance while you learn how to paddle. So there are lots of mini skills that are incorporated into this in this activity. But the main skill is just being able to stand up on the board in the middle of the ocean or a lake, if that's the case, and to be able to paddle to propel yourself forward in a way that allows you to continue to stand up and not fall into the water, that allows you to go from point A to point B, and to utilize your core muscles, your upper back muscles, and all of the elements of that activity that result in a great workout when you finished.
Okay. So when you begin paddleboarding, would you say that the ideal conditions would be flat, calm water that is free of obstacles like a boat?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it can be daunting to get onto a board in an ocean that's got some waves that are undulating back and forth. It's much easier. We just did an event in Austin, and we went on the lake in Austin, which was very smooth, and it was so nice for people who'd never been on a board before to be able to get on the board the first time and not have to deal with waves or currents or a lot of wind or obstacles, and just be able to enjoy the feeling of being on this relatively small board and being able to maintain balance.
Okay. Okay, balance. Okay. Now, when you're beginning to paddleboard, is it easier to kneel on the board rather than stand directly upright?
Oh yeah,
Can you give us, yes.
it's
Also,
always easier to kneel, and that's the
mhm,
sort of starting position for a lot of people. But once you've become comfortable at kneeling on the board, then the next challenge is to go from that kneeling position to stand-up position, which you have to do um, fairly carefully. You can't just do it like you're on a floor or anything
yeah,
like that, because you're
right.
on a very narrow board that is going to want to tip over if you don't distribute your weight evenly.
Okay. What are some examples of exercises that you might do outside away from the water to help you stand upright on the paddleboard? Hmm.
Well, burpees are a great exercise. Every CrossFit gym incorporates burpees as sort of the main punishment for showing up late. And burpees is just going from a push-up position to a standing position quickly. And that's one of the things that one of the movements that would assist you on a stand-up paddleboard, or just in general for surfing, for instance. I keep a slack line in my backyard. That's kind of like a tightrope.
Hmm.
And I work out on the slack line a little bit to maintain balance. So this is really all about maintaining good core strength, and doing things that will improve balance, so that when you do get on the board, it's a fun experience and not a frustrating one.
Is paddleboarding a seasonal sport? And if you do the sport in the middle of milder conditions, what type of clothing would you need?
Well, it's if you're in the Midwest and you're on lakes, or you're in Michigan, it's definitely a seasonal sport. You would not do it in the wintertime, and in the summertime, depending on how warm it is and how good you are at this sort of activity, you don't need anything more or less than a standard bathing suit. I don't, I'll go paddle for an hour or two, and I won't get wet above my knees half the time, because I can just mount the board at the shore and paddle out through the waves and paddle for an hour or two, and then come back and step off the board. So I don't ever plan on getting wet,
Hmm.
and as such, I wear as little clothing as I can get away with, because I'm typically out in, it's warm,
And I
even though the
guess
water.
sunscreen would be suggested, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a fan of getting some unprotected sun exposure every day, but if you're going to be out for more than 20 minutes, you certainly want to put something on to cover up and not burn. So a hat is if it's a sunny day, obviously a hat would be a good idea, and maybe a rash guard or a long sleeve shirt for some people, or just some sunscreen if you've got a good healthy sunscreen.
Okay. Now, let me see what else I want to say. I heard somebody said that perfect practice makes you perfect. So I guess with paddleboarding, you can expect to occasionally fall as you're going to learn the skill.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things that the first couple of times you do it, it can be very frustrating for a lot of people if you're not in ideal conditions.
Hmm.
So ideal conditions would be like a lake or a calm pond or something like that. But less than ideal conditions would be an ocean where there's a breeze and some chop to the water, and
Hmm.
that can make it fairly daunting kind of process. It's like anything else. Once you get the hang of it, it's like riding a bike or something like that. The first couple of times you try, it's maybe not that easy, but once you get it, you all of a sudden wonder why your brain didn't wire itself for this kind of activity a little bit earlier.
Yes, I agree with that. Now, the the paddle board, and there's um, like a motion that you use with the arms to help to guide you. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's you just have a one paddle. It's
Hmm.
a long paddle with a sort of a T on the end of the handle, and so you grab the end of the paddle and take a slightly greater than shoulder width grip on it, and
Hmm.
you mostly use you keep what amounts to straight arms, and just use your upper back and your core, your serratus, the side muscles,
Okay.
and your lats as levers to propel the board forward. So you are taking a long gliding stroke of anywhere from 4 to 6 feet per stroke, and maybe 5 or 6 strokes per side, and then switch sides, because if you take too many strokes on one side, you're going to kind of point the board away from that side. That's how you steer it, by changing sides on the board. But it's a very it's kind of intuitive. Once you get the hang of it, it makes total sense.
Okay, sounds like a lot of motor skills are involved. I was told that motor skills take place in a different area within the brain, the cerebellum, and the brain considers motor skills more essential to survival. Therefore, motor movement has prioritized as a survivor skill.
That's probably right. I think that may be a little bit overanalyzing it,
Okay.
but like any of these critical motor skills, once you develop, and we'll go back to the comment you made about perfect practice. If you get if you have a great technique and you got your stroke technique down, it becomes automatic within a very short period of time, and you don't have to think about every stroke, and those motor skills become just they literally burn themselves into the brain. Your brain hardwires itself so that you could go, and I've done this. I've gone 6 months without getting on a board, and then get on the board, and it's like I've been practicing every day for the last 6 months. There's no loss of skill, no loss of strength. It's one of the great things about learning how to paddle, is that once you learn how to do it, it's kind of with you forever.
Okay. Is there a pre-exercise that you can do to help strengthen the arms and the legs, and using the core muscles?
No, I think any activity that you do that utilizes the core muscles, which I am a big advocate of. So if you're in the gym and whatever workout you're doing, I'm hoping that you're going to be involving your core, whether you're doing pull-ups, push-ups, dips, lunges, squats, whatever. I'm assuming you're going to be using the core as much as you possibly can. So those all contribute to the idea of being ready to get on the board. But it's there's not really much that you can do to prepare. It's its own kind of activity, and it's not necessary. I think the biggest hurdle for a lot of people is they tense up. They get on the board, and they're stiff-legged, trying to maintain their balance, when in fact the balance comes from being fluid and loose and relaxing and bending the knees a little bit and sitting into it, and not being so tight.
Okay.
And that's a skill that we try to teach, but you have to sort of experience it. You can't teach that in the gym. You can only find the experience that when you're on the board and go, oh, so this is what you mean by that.
Okay. What type of diet would you recommend for someone who's paddleboarding? Say, for example, is there a special diet that you should do before paddleboarding and also after paddleboarding? Is there a special meal to boost your energy?
No, I don't. I don't do anything special before or after. I often don't eat for a long time before I'll go out on the board, and that's just because I typically don't eat until noon or 1 o'clock every day. So I don't feel the need to have to fill up on energy of any kind, because I'm pretty good at burning fat. And what we notice when you're doing paddling for any length of time is it's a pretty good fat burning activity. So if you're good at burning fat already, you really don't need to chow down on any carbs of any kind or build up any kind of an energy reserve.
Right, because I was told that our body was designed to burn fat.
Oh yeah, no, that's my whole philosophy, is that our body's designed to burn fat, and the diet that I espouse, whether or not you're ever going to paddle, the diet that I espouse is one that is high in healthy fats, moderate in protein, and fairly low in carbohydrates, and is one that teaches your body how to be good at burning fat.
Okay. Do you consider paddleboarding as a play or a workout?
Oh no, it's play.
Play.
It is a workout. It'll be a workout, but I certainly consider it play, because I never I never engage in that activity to do a workout. I engage in that activity to go play and to have some fun.
Okay, fun. It's all about fun, right?
Absolutely.
Having fun. Okay, compared to the training that you did as a runner in the early 70s and the late 80s to the training for paddleboarding, can you elaborate on that, the difference?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't paddle that much. I might go out once or twice a week, sometimes 3 times, but I don't need to train for it. It is its own training, so I don't have to prepare with the training when I do paddle. And since I don't race, I don't do any paddling races. I don't have any ulterior motive or reason to go out and do this as a workout. My motivation for paddling is purely to have fun. Now, the fact that I get a workout is icing on the cake, but and that's probably a bad analogy for a low carb strategy, icing on the cake, but we'll use that anyway. It's yeah. So yeah, it's I don't really. It's in the old days when I was a runner, every workout was sort of a drudgery, and while I got into it and I was able to get through the workouts, and I really looked forward to them. I looked forward to when they were over, and paddling is almost the opposite. I look forward to going out on the board, and then I'm kind of sad when it is over. So that's how it's very different from running in that respect.
Okay. So you feel lean, fit, happy, and healthy with paddleboarding.
Absolutely. That's
Absolutely.
good way to put it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you for this information about paddleboarding. I'm sure our readers will enjoy all this information. It sounds like a fun, exciting sport and type of lifestyle, fitness lifestyle to do. So thank you very much for all the information. And
It's my pleasure, Rosetta.
thank you.
Okay.